selector. The universal selector is a star, and it selects everything on the website. And we have to use this with lots of caution because you're selecting everything and you're changing everything at once. So if I write this star and then background color pink, I'm going to change everything to be pink. So I'm going to write in CSS file. So to make a CSS file, you just go to your folder, you click on new file, and then you write the name of your file. If I make it like app, and then I write dot and then CSS. So now this is a CSS file over here, you can see. And now over here, my HTML shortcuts are not working. Like if I type exclamation mark, it's not giving HTML boilerplate. I type, but so I have to type CSS in here. And the universal selector looks like this. I put a star and then I put two brackets, one opening and one closing. And inside of this, I write CSS. So suppose like this. So this is CSS. This is how CSS syntax looks. Compare that to HTML. You can see that this was the HTML we were writing. So they're two very different things. Like this. So first one is the universal selector. Next, we're going to be talking about the element selector. So in HTML, everything we've been learning right now has been elements. Like, for example, image, anchor tags, H1, H2, divs, paragraphs, text area, input. All of these were elements. Over here, you can see I have some sample HTML code. You can see that this is a div. This is an H1. This is the body. So all of these are elements. And this is the second way we can select code in CSS. So for example, if I write body, and then an opening and closing, and then I write background color purple, same thing. This is also valid CSS. So this is the second type. And element selectors can be separated by commas. So we can select multiple elements and we can give them the same properties. Like if I want the body and the paragraph to have a background color of purple and a width of 100%. So I'm going to be showing you all of these properties later, but this is just some sample CSS. But you can see that I'm separating both of these by commas and they have the same properties over here. So this is valid CSS. Next, we're going to be learning about the ID selector. So remember, oh wait, there's doubt. Yes. 1 second. Madhav, you can unmute.
Yeah, I was asking how will the CSS file know about our HTML file?
Okay, that's a great doubt. So I'll just show you how to link the files in a few minutes. And then you'll see that whatever you write in the CSS, it's going to impact your HTML. So thank you for that doubt. It's very nice. In a few minutes, I'll show you. Anyway, so now we're going to be learning about the ID selector. Remember yesterday I told you in HTML that we can give IDs to our elements. Sorry. Go here. Over here, you can see I'll write a new file over here. I can give H1 an ID. I can write ID equals first H1, for example. So this ID is unique. We're not going to use it again. I can't write this twice in the same file. So that's how we can select CSS using these IDs as well. It's the third way to select. The fourth way to select is by a class. So we haven't talked about classes yet, and I'll be introducing them today. So suppose you have lots of H1s like this. I'll just duplicate this. 1 second. I duplicated all of these H1s. I have lots of H1s. And if I want all of them to have the same properties, what I can do is I can give it a class. Class equals H1. H1 tag, for example. And this class can be anything you want. It's a variable, okay? If I give them all the same class. So now I can change all of their properties at the same time. So that's what classes are for. Classes are for changing the properties of multiple things at the same time. And the syntax for selecting with classes is a dot. So we'll have practice with this soon, but I'll just show it here now. If I have a class, I just write dot and then the class name. The class name was H1 tag. So I write H1 tag. And then I start writing my CSS in here. Like that, for example. Okay. So the final one we're going to be learning is descendant selectors. So basically, if you have a space between two of the selectors, it makes the second selector a descendant or a child of the first one. So for example, if I go back to my test HTML and I have a div, And inside the div, I have a paragraph with some text. Div with a paragraph and some text inside it. If I want to just select the paragraph, what I can do is I can write div and then paragraph, like here, like this. So first I'm selecting the div, and then inside every div, I'm selecting a paragraph. So only the paragraphs inside a div, only these are going to be selected. Now, if you compare that to a paragraph that's outside the div, like this one, the second paragraph's outside the div, it's not going to be selected. But if I want to select both of the paragraphs, then I can just use a paragraph tag normally. So you can see the difference. First one selects all the paragraphs, and the second one selects a div inside, like a paragraph inside of a div. You can see on the top, it also shows that there's a div, and then there's some code, and then there's a paragraph over here. Versus over here, it's just a paragraph. And for body, and for this, like the comma, it's a body and then a paragraph with with a comma, if you separate with a comma. So I hope you understand this, and we're going to have some practice about this as well. What is the difference between a paragraph and a div? Okay, so I'll show it to you. Over here, this div, it's just used for making your code into blocks. Like suppose I open up this file. Over here, you can see that these two paragraphs look exactly the same. And that's because they are exactly the same. Only thing is the first one is inside of a div and the second one's outside of a div. So we keep stuff inside of a div because we want to keep our text together. We want to keep it structured. So if I have lots of paragraphs, it gets very messy. You can see like our website looks fine, but inside of the website, like our code, it looks very messy. So to keep it together, we put stuff inside of a div. So this can be the first div, and then a second div can have the last three paragraphs. And that's how you use it to give structure. 1 second. Okay, so this is the 5 types of selectors. So I'll show you this the syntax again. You have a selector and then a property and then a value. So this is the CSS syntax. And we've learned about 5 types. Okay. So now we're going to be learning how to link our files, like our CSS files, to our HTML files. So I want all of you to open up your VS Code. Everyone open up VS Code. And once you've opened it up, press done, like type done in the chat. Everyone has it open. Okay, perfect. Now what I want you to do is I want you to right click on your folder and click on new file. Once you've done that, just click on new file and then name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it I already have 2 CSS files, so I'll just type some nonsense and I'll type .css. So you can see on the left, you see the blue icon. That's the CSS icon. I hope you can see that. Just press save. Once you've done that, type done again. If you've done this. So now you have a CSS file. Okay, everyone has it. Perfect, perfect. So now what I want you to do, I want to go to your HTML file, the one you want to link your CSS to. So this is the test file. I'm going to link my CSS here. And inside of the head, this is the head over here. In the last line, I want you to type link, L-I-N-K. And the third option, you see link :CSS. I want you to select that. And then it says this, link rel equals style sheet. I want you to leave that alone. And in the href part, I want you to write the name of the file that you want. Like over here, if I want to include test.css, I'm going to write test, T-E-S-T, test.css. Has everyone completed this part? Completed? Madhav is completed. And okay, 3-4 people have completed. Okay, now perfect. So now what you've done is you've linked your HTML and your CSS. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my paragraph and I'm going to write some CSS here. So I'll just write 2 properties. You can copy them from me. First one, I'm going to write, I'm going to start from scratch. This is my test file. I have paragraphs in here. You can write your own paragraphs. And then you go to your app CSS. I mean, your test file where you want to go write your CSS. And then you just write, I'm going to select paragraph first. So type paragraph and then opening and closing brackets like this. And inside of this, I want you to write color and then just give it any color. I'm going to give it orange. like this. I hope you can see this. And I've linked it here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this same file. And now look at this. This is turned orange. So please try it out. Hello.
Can you share this? Can you show the CSS file again?
Yeah, I'll show it to you. 1 second. So you go back to your VS Code. Inside of test, all I've done is, you can ignore all this part for now. Okay. All I've done is I've written P and then opening and closing tags. And then inside of that, I've written color is orange. And you can see this is curly braces. It's not any other kind of braces. Make sure you write curly braces. Then it's going to work. So once you've done that, this should be orange for you now. Is it working? This is the CSS file. This is the only line I've written. Everything else is commented out. You don't have to look at it. It's working for you? Okay, it's working for you guys. Perfect. So this is how we write CSS. And now we know that our files are linked. So now we're going to be learning about the different types of CSS we can write. How do you comment? I'll show you. You just go where you want to write the comment, control and then /. I'll type it here, control and then /. I hope you can see this. Control and then /. You don't press the plus icon. So now we're going to be covering some basic CSS properties. So the first thing we're going to be covering is background color. Background color. So we go to the paragraph, and if I change this to background color to be orange, notice the paragraph now. Look what happens. So the background of the paragraph has become orange, but the text inside of it is black. Can you see this? Over here. And if I change this to something else like green, then it's going to be green. Like so. Now it's green. This is very basic. It's very intuitive because it says background color, it changes the background color. Next is color. It changes the font color. So if I go to the paragraph and again, I make the color orange. I already showed this to you. Color. Instead of orange, I make it aqua, for example. Then every paragraph will have aqua text. I hope you can see this here. This is aqua. Same way for the H1s. If I want to have the H1s to be a different color, I can write H1, opening brackets, color, and magenta, for example. And now the H1s are all magenta. So this is color. Color helps change the font color. Next is font family. So basically, you can just go and you can test it on VS Code yourself. You can type font family here, and you can see all of these different types of fonts. So I'm just going to select a random one like Times New Roman. So now I want you to pay close attention to the file. If I reload, the file text changes. Okay, 1 second. Sahana, you can ask it out.
Yes. Can you repeat how to link the CSS file with the HTML? I didn't get it.
I'll share now. So you go to the HTML file you want to link it to. Over here in the head, in the last line of the head, before the head tag closes, you have to go here. You have to type link, L-I-N-K, and then the third option, link : CSS. You can see over here, link : CSS. You click on that. And then over here, you write the name of your CSS file. So for me, it's going to be test.css. I'm keeping it simple. I'm using the same name for HTML and CSS. I'm going to write test.css. And now it's going to be working. But if I don't have this, then our CSS is going to be gone. You can see the CSS is not being rendered. But now the CSS is rendering again. So over here, you can change the font family. Font family. If I make it like this, you can see that the font changes. I'll actually make this black because it's hard to see. But look at this font over here. And if I remove the font family, then you're going to see the font changes. So pay close attention. And if I reload, it's going to change. So I'm going to reload. And you can see the font changed. So that's font family. Next, it's font size. You can change the size of the font. And the font size is written in pixels. So what I do is I write font size and then 100 pixels, for example. Then I go back and I see, look at this, the text is huge now. All of the paragraphs have extremely large text. And this is very simple. It's just self-explanatory. You're changing the font size. Next, it's font style. You can change if the font is normal, bold, or italic. So instead of doing it in HTML, we can do it in CSS. So that's much easier for us. We can just write font style italic. And now you can see all the fonts italic. Despite of our HTML not having any italic tags. You can see the paragraphs don't have any italic tags, but it's still working. Okay. And we can make this bold as well. I'll show you. Italic, bold, normal, whatever you want. You can see now it's bold. If I change the color, it's going to be even more obvious. This is bold. And next we're going to be looking at font weight. Yeah, so font weight tells you the degree of lightness or boldness. So suppose I go to font weight. Font weight has only like 9 or 10 options from 100 to 900. So suppose I select 700 and look at the font weight now. And if I reload, you can see the font's much bolder. It's much thicker. So that's what font weight controls. It controls the thickness of the font. And the last one is text align. So what it does is it controls the alignment of the text. So if I go text align and I do right instead of left, you're going to see that the text has shifted. Like there's space on the left-hand side instead of it being, there's space being on the right-hand side. You can see if I comment this out, you can see now there's space on the right-hand side. And if I reduce the text, it'll be more easier. I'll reduce this. One second. Okay, so now the paragraph's much smaller. It's just this much. This is left align. And if I go and I make it right align, you can see it's all the way over here, the right-hand side. And if I keep it center, now it's in the center. So if you want to center stuff, you can just use text align. I hope this is clear. And one more thing I want to point out is that this, first off, we're going to inspect element. I showed you. You right click and you click on inspect. So if you click on this over here, you can see that the CSS we're writing is being applied here. You can see, and this font family is not being applied because we commented it out. But if we bring it back, it's going to be applied again. So now you can see all of this is being applied, and over here we can change it. If I make this green, now it's going to be green. But this is only in the browser. So once you reload, it's going to be back to blue because this is our file and this is our browser. But in the browser, we can change it to green if you want to. And as long as I don't reload, it's going to be green. Same way these H1s are having their CSS applied here. You can see on which line as well, the CSS we have written. So test.css line 7. So if I go to line 7, this is line 7, basically. This 7 to 10. Okay, so these are a few simple basic CSS properties. Madhav, I'm not sure about that. I'll get back to you. But I think there's some websites online that allow you to make websites without actually coding it. So using a browser, you can technically make it. But for our level, that's not going to work because we want to make web development using the files. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you is specificity. So basically, suppose you have and H1 over here. I go back here. Yeah. So I'll just delete all this. Yeah. So what I do is first we go back to our CSS. I mean, like our main website. All of these H1s are purple, right? But if I go back here and I give the first one a ID equals first H1. And then over here, I change this with an ID selector. I told you it's hashtag and then first H1. So the name of the ID like this is the same. And I change this to have a different color of blue. Then you'll see what happens. You see the first H1, it has changed its color to blue. And if we inspect, we can see why this is happening. So you click on the first one. On the right-hand side, you can see that first it had a color of magenta, but now it's being striked out. And now it's going to blue. You can see over here. Because of this ID, it says hashtag first H1, color is giving blue. And for all H1s, the color is magenta. So if I go to the second one, it's going to be magenta because there's no ID on this. It's just H1. So I hope you understand this part. And there's an order. There's a syntax for seeing which one's more specific. So the more specific you are, that style is going to be applied. You can see the more specific selector wins. So IDs are the most specific. And then under IDs, we have classes. And under classes, we have elements. So the element selector, this is not specific. It's very general. And after that, it's the class. So class is with a dot. If I write dot even, this is the class. Right now, we don't have this here. In our file, we don't have any class named even. So it's not going to do anything. And then after classes, we have this thing, IDs. And there's a website. You can check which one's more specific. I'll share this website with you. Like over here. If I write H1. And over here, I write hashtag first H1. You can see that this has a number 1 and this has the number 100, like 100, 100. We look at it like this. This is number 1, like 001. And if I write lots of, and if instead of H1, I make multiple of them, H1, 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 H1. I do this lots of times. Yeah, so now I have 70 H1s. This is 70 times as specific as a normal H1. You can see this is 70 and this is just 1, right? But if I go here, I can see that this number is not changing. Like this 0 and this 0, they're not changing. So it doesn't mean that this is equal to like 100 of this. These are two separate ways to measure. This is 1 and this is a 0. So that's why this is wins. This automatically wins because it's higher. So this is not algebraic. It's just a different way to measure. We can just see. It says here as well, elements, there's 1 versus IDs, there's 1. So this one wins automatically. So if you have any doubts, please raise your hands. No doubts? Did everyone understand? You can type yes if you understood. Okay, perfect. So one more thing I want to show you is suppose, for example, we have a clash. Like over here, I have H1 and then I write H1 again. And I write color equals aquamarine, for example. So now what do you think is going to happen? If I go here and you can just guess, like you can guess in your head, what do you think is going to happen? And if I reload, you can see that all of these are now aquamarine. So why is that happening? So first we go back to this thing, we inspect it, we click on the H1. We can see that this one had a color of magenta and then it gets striked out and now it's going aquamarine. So why is that happening? So basically all of these H1s, they first have the color of magenta and then they have the color of aquamarine. You can see. So what's happening is first they're getting the color of magenta, then they're getting the color of aquamarine. So it looks like they're just aquamarine, but actually they first went to magenta and then went to aquamarine. As you can see here, they said first it was magenta and then like, oh no, nope, now it's aquamarine because this was written after this. So when you have the same specificity of both of these, then the latest one's going to win. And if, for example, over here, I write hashtag first H1. Over here, if I give it a color of orange, now you can guess what's going to happen because this one has an ID of first H1. And if you guess that this is going to be orange, you're correct because this first H1 is very specific. It's an ID. So if I go to this, I see that first they were magenta, then they were aquamarine, and then this first H1 gave it a color of orange with an ID selector. So you can see. And we know that IDs are the most specific. And after that, it's classes. And after that, there's elements. This is elements. This is IDs. And classes we're going to cover soon. So that's done. Specificity. And this is the cascade, the one I told you. The order you styles are declared in matters. Purple wins because purple is after red. You can see both of them are the same. They're both H1s, but purple's going to win because purple is declared after red. So the syntax is from top to bottom. The code is compiled top to bottom. We've covered all of these. So next, I'm going to tell you about the box. What if you want to change the color of 2 paragraphs in different colors? Okay, that's a good question. So I'll show you how to do that. What we can do. So I'll make 2 paragraphs. If anyone has an answer to that, you can just type, oh, perfect, Madhav, excellent. That's the right answer. So I'll just show it to you once. You type paragraph, lorem. And one more paragraph, lorem. So both of these are lorem ipsums. These are 2 different paragraphs, just for 1 second. And they both have, I'll just delete all the CSS. Right, so they're both simple paragraphs with left align. So now what I'm going to do is, 1 second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give them different colors. So I can just give them separate IDs. So this one, ID first, ID second. And if I want to select them, I can go hashtag first, hashtag second. I can give this a color of blue. I can give this a color of green. So now you'll see first one's green, second one's blue. So that's how you do it using IDs. Okay, so now we're going to be learning about the CSS box model. So over here in CSS, one thing I want to show you is that everything is in a box. Yeah, but that's going to change the background color. If you want to change the text color, you need to use color. And if you want to change the background color, then you use background color. So background color. This is going to change the background color. But sometimes you want to change the text color as well. So you can see there are 2 different things. This is background color, and this is text color. Text color is blue, same way text color is green, and background color is orange here. Background color is red here. You can see. So if you want to change text color, it's color. If you want to change background color, it's background color. So now one more thing. Next thing I'm going to show you is the CSS box model. So the CSS box model basically says that every element in HTML has a box around it. So if I go, 1 second. If I go to my H1 and I click on it, you can see that there is a box here on the right-hand side. You can see this box. It says margin and then border and then padding and then this. There are 4 things. This is the box model in CSS. It's very, very important. And every element in every HTML file has a box. You can see over here. Even if I have small elements like anchor tags, you see this anchor tag? You can see there's a box around it. And I click on it, I have another box, margin, border, padding, and this auto. It's basically called text content. So you go back here, margin, border, padding, and then content. So it's a box that wraps around every HTML element. We need to know these 4 terms: margins, borders, paddings, and the actual content. And this image below illustrates this. So if I go to my paragraph, you see the blue chunk. This is known as the text content over here, the blue parts. This is the text content. As you can see, I'm hovering over it. And next, I'm going to show you the padding. Since there's no padding in this, it's not visible. It has a padding of 0. Next, we're going to go to border. There's no border on this, so border is also 0. And finally, we go to margin. Margin on the top and bottom, it's 16 pixels. So you can see that this orange part is the margin. And if we want to give it some border padding and margin, we can just do it in CSS. I'll show it to you now. I go to paragraph. I type border. I'll show you the syntax for this. Padding. Margin. Suppose. So now you can see, I go back to this paragraph and you can see this is the text content. And now we have 100 pixels of padding. So you can see the padding is applied inside of the borders over here. And next I go to the borders. This is the border. You see the red borders? These are the borders. Over here, it's being selected. This is the padding. Is the green area. This border, it's now being orange over here, but it has a color red. On the website, we see it as like this because of our CSS. And last is the margin. Sorry. This is the margin. You see the orange part around the red border. This is the margin. And for the second one, we can see the margin. This is the margin. So I hope you've understood this. If you have any doubts, please ask me now. This is very important. This is very, very important. You need to know this perfectly. Does anyone have any doubts? I'll explain one more time. Okay, perfect. So basically, the CSS box model says that every element, every HTML element has a box around of it. And you can see, you can read over here, margins, borders, paddings, and the actual content. So this is how the box looks. I go to my website. I go on this H1, for example. On the right-hand side, you can see this box, this giant box. It has margin, border, padding, and then the content. Can you see it on yours as well? Can you see it on your screen as well? I hope you can see this. So now there's 4 parts of this box. First one is this blue part. You can see on the screen, on the website screen. You just look over here, okay? Once I hover over it, you can see this turns blue. This is known as text content. Next, it's padding. Next, it's border. And then finally, it's margin. So we go back here. This is content. Right above it, it's padding. And then there's a border, and then there's a margin. You can see. Yeah. So I go back to my paragraphs, for example, and using CSS, you can change the values. So in the paragraphs, I gave these values. I wrote these values. You can see I gave it a border, a padding, and a margin. So now we go back to our CSS. This is the paragraph. You can see this is the content, the text I wrote. The text I wrote over here, lorem ipsum. This is the content. Over here, the blue part, the blue area on the website. Next, it's the padding, the green area on the website. You see the padding, you see the space between the red lines and the text content. That's known as padding. You can see it's on all 4 sides of the content. You can just spend 10 seconds looking at this. This is the padding. Next is the border. You can see the border, the red border around the entire content. This is the border. It's being selected right now. Perfect, perfect, Madhav. Padding is between the content and the border. You can read this in the chat. Padding is between the content and the border. You can see padding is squished between the border and the content. Same way the border is squished between the margin and the padding. So it's margin, then border, then padding, and then content. So this is the margin. In the end, you see the space. There's white space between this box and this box, like this red. There's 2 red lines. These are 2 separate paragraph boxes. So this space between is called the margins. I'll zoom in a bit. You can see this space. In fact, I'll increase it to make it even more clear. So if 25 pixels, if I make it 100 pixels, you can see that there's so much space now between these two boxes. So this is known as margin. So there's 100 pixels here and 100 pixels here. So total, there's 200 pixels. I hope you can see that. And if I make the padding very small, like 1 pixel, let's see what happens. Look at this. Look at the text. It's now sticking to the borders, but there's so much space between these two paragraphs. You can see, because this is the padding. This is inside of the borders. And this is the margin. This is outside of the borders. So they're two separate things. And I can change the border as well. If I make the border 1 pixel, you're going to see it's be very small now. This is the border. It's very small. Can you see it? This. Everything in HTML has a border. But if you just remove the border thing, then it's just going to be invisible. Like the border is invisible. It's still there, but it's just invisible. So that's why, to show you, I have a 1 pixel solid border. You can see it's a red border. I can change the color as well. I can make it green using CSS. I can change it to whatever I want. You can see over here. So I hope everyone understands the concepts of box model. Please tell me in the chat if you don't understand it. I see 3 people understanding it. I hope it's clear. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, wow. Lots of people understand it. So, perfect. We can continue. So now we're going to be talking about this. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to be covering is the text content. So the content has 2 properties, the width and the height. So I go back to my, this thing, my VS Code, and I'm going to give you a good paragraph because this paragraph is really, really small. So I'll just delete, first off, I'll delete everything. It's very distracting. So this is my website. It's completely empty. First, I'll give it an H1 test page. Now there's an H1 here. Wait, what? Okay, it's just changing it. Yeah, so test page. And yeah, now I'm going to give it a paragraph. So if you want long paragraphs, there's this shortcut I'll tell you. You go to paragraph, instead of typing lorem, you can type lorem and then a number next to it. If I write 100, so this means that there's going to be 100 words of lorem. I do that. Now I have 100 words of lorem instead of the standard text. So I write lorem 100 for 100 words. Yeah. Over here. I'll type it in the chat. So lorem is just garbage text, Sasank. Lorem is just garbage text. You can see over here. This is, it's basically Latin. I think someone told me it's Latin. It's the Latin language, and it's using English letters. So if you want to write text quickly, you can just write lorem on the VS Code, and it's going to give you lorem ipsum. So you type lorem, you type a paragraph inside of that lorem, you're going to get lorem ipsum over here. So next is yeah. So what now? Yeah, sorry, width and the height, right? I want to show you that. So over here, we can change the width and the height for each paragraph. So what I'm going to go here, I'm going to make width. So usually width, I write in percentage. So if I write width as 50%, so now you can see the space this is taking. If I reload, wait, what? Sorry. So instead of width, instead of percent, I'll just write pixels for now. Yeah, so you can see that this is now taking 50% of the screen over here. Instead of 50%, if I make it 10%, you can see, look at this, look at the paragraph. It's going long across the screen. And instead of 10, normally it's 100%, okay? Normally paragraphs take up 100%. This is 100% width. This is 100% width. And if I go make it 10%, now look at the paragraph. I'm going to reload. Now it's going to take up 10% of the screen, as you can see over here. And if I go to inspect element, look at this. This is the box model. Yeah, I want to show you. So the box model, the text content, you can see it's like this now. And This is the margin. Look at the margin. It's taking up 90% of the screen. A lot. I hope you can see this clearly. This is the content. It's taking up 10%, and everything else is taken up by the margin. You can see. So this is width, and next you can do is height. You can do height as, suppose I make it 100 pixels. So now you can see that the content's being squished. This text content is being fit inside 100 pixels. And if I change it to be very less, like 10 pixels, then you can see that they're both being squished over here. If I go and remove this paragraph for 1 second, you can see this is the paragraph. It's just being squished inside of this box. So if you have more content, then it's going to start overflowing and your text is going to shrink up together. You can see like this. And this width and height is also used for other things apart from text. Like if I had an image, I could show you with an image as well. I'll show you with an image. I go back to my page, I write image, source equals this, it's a massive source. This is the image of the car, right? I hope everyone can see this clearly. So I go back to my VS Code, and I'm going to select the image, like this. And I'm going to write width 500 pixels. So now let's see what happens. Look at that. The width of the image has increased dramatically. And if I change the height to be 300 pixels. Now look at that. The height has also reduced. So this is very clear in terms of the image. You can see that the image has changed. And instead of percent, if I write 10%, and width is also 10%, for example, you can see it goes back. It's taking back 10% of the screen. 90% of it is empty, like this. So I hope this explanation makes it clear as well. So this is how you control the content part. Content is controlled using width and height. These are two things we're going to be covering right now. There's also a max width and a max height property, which is specified in either pixels or percentages. And aspect ratio is also a good property we can use. It specifies aspect ratio in a width to height format. So I'll show you that now. I'll go back to the image because it's very simple to explain with the image. Okay, you have a doubt?
If we put the width of the picture as 10% and height of the picture as 10%, why isn't showing up like a square?
That's a good question. So I'll show it right here. Wait. So basically what's happening is that the height is 1 second. It basically depends on the box model, because the box model has a different height compared to the width. That's why it's not turning up as a square. Like you can see over here, the width, this is the width. The width is 10% of the screen, but the height 10%, they're different. Like for the picture, the height is different than the width, and that's why your thing is showing up as a rectangle and not as a square. I hope that clears it out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something. I'm going to write width as 90%. So let's see what happens. Look at this. It's become very big. And I'm going to write max width as 300 pixels. So now let's see what happens. So now if we inspect this, we can see that the max width, basically first it asks for width as 90%, and then it's saying max width is 300. So now, yeah, that's why the max width will now be 300. So we can control our things if we want. So if you write width is 90%, and we just leave it like this, so obviously now the picture is going to be massive, but we don't want that. So that's why we write max width. So same way we can write height as we instead of hiding height, we can write aspect ratio. So aspect ratio is basically width by height. So what we do is we usually specify the width and then we write aspect ratio to control the height like this. So now look at this. Look at this. This is the aspect ratio, 16:9. This is a very common aspect ratio used. Another one we can do is 1:1. So it's 1 width, 1 height. Look at that. So now you can see it's a square. I forgot the name who asked it out, but you can see that this is a square now. And if we inspect it, you can see it's 300 by 300. It's a square. And same way we can write max height. Max height, 200 pixels, for example, suppose. So now you'll see that it's a 300 by 200 pixel card, this image. So that's how we control. Max width is maximum width we are allowing the content to have. Maximum width we are allowing the content to have. So this is good. Next, we're going to be talking about the 3 types in the box model. I already showed you like what is the padding and the border and the margin. We're going to be talking about how to control them. Okay. So, and before we do that, I'll just show you something. I copy this code. So the problem with images is that sometimes they have really huge URLs. You can see it's very massive. Anyway, so now I'm going to replace with this, and I'll show you the code I wanted to show you in the starting. Okay, so let's go back to the code I've written, new code. I have one H1 here, and then I have a div. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see I have 4 divs, and each of these divs have an ID, first, second, third, fourth. And I've given them a class as well. First is odd, second is even, third is odd, fourth is even. So this is self-explanatory because the first number 1 is odd, number 2 is even, like this. So if I just stop linking the file for a second. So this is just plain HTML. Now, once I add my CSS, now you can see what's happening here. So basically, over here, yeah. So basically what I'm doing is, first thing I'm checking is hashtag first and then paragraph. So what's happening is it's looking for element ID equals first, and inside of that a paragraph. You can see the selector specificity. It's 101, right? So what I'm doing is I'm giving it a background color of gold. So same way over here, this is being gold. Next, what I'm doing is I'm doing odd and then P. So this is specificity of 011. You can see it's less than this. This is 101. This is 011. I'm giving it a background color of blue. So this is all elements with an odd inside of that paragraph. So you can see over here, this becomes blue. Over here, I'll show you. This is an element with an ID of odd, like with a class of odd, and inside of that a paragraph. So this becomes blue. Same way for class of even, I'm giving it a background of green. You can see. So this is just an explanation of IDs, elements, and classes, how you can change them. So now we continue on. Now we're going to be continuing about the box model, border, padding, and margin. So first one's the border, and there's going to be 3 main properties we're going to be learning about the border, and those properties are border width, border color, and border style. Okay. So if I go to the border, these 3 can be specified in this order: border width, border style, and border color. So if I go back to this, 1 second, I'll delete all this. This is simple. Now what I'll do is I'll give each of these paragraphs a border, all of these paragraphs, and select all the paragraphs. All I do is I type P and I type border. So now we have to follow the syntax. The syntax are written on the PPT. Syntax is border width, border style, and border color. So I go back here. Suppose I want to have a border of 1 pixel. So I write border 1 pixel, and then I'll show you styles. Like one common style is solid, and then color red. So now I'll show you how it looks like. You can see it looks like this: 1 pixel solid red borders. And if we go online and we search for border style CSS, like I showed you, right? If you want to learn anything, you can just Google it, search for it online. You can see this website called W3 Schools, and it's telling you about borders. I'll share this in the chat. Please check out this link. Please open it up right now. So you can see that there's many styles: dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove. So if I try dashed instead of solid, if I write dashed, and to make it clear, I'll make it 10 pixels dashed. You can see, look at this. They're dashes. Instead of being one solid line, it's dashed. So if you want to add borders to anything in your website, this is how you do it. You can see now it's dotted. I hope this is visible. And one more thing you can do is you can change the color. Over here, instead of red, you can write anything you want, green as well. Green, yellow, for example. 10 pixels solid, green, yellow. You can see now it's changed as well. So this is about borders. And next thing we're going to be looking at is padding. So padding is the space between the border and the content. Remember, we discussed this in class. So what we're going to do is we're going to write padding 100 pixels, for example. So now look at all the space, all of the space between the border and the text content. You can see over here. So if I remove the border, this is how it looks. Now the border is missing, but we still have a border. It's just invisible, basically. And this is the padding. I can show you here. See, this is the padding around the text. And this is the border. You can see the border, it's invisible. And this is margin, is default margin by Chrome. This is the padding. This is the text content, the text. Lorem ipsum we've written. Padding can also be specified. So basically, this is a bit complex. You're going to have to see it 1 or 2 times. So padding, there's a shorthand for padding. So basically, there's 2 ways you can specify padding. You can either write padding left. You can see padding left shows up. If I type padding, I type padding again. You see padding right, padding top shows up over here on VS Code. Padding top, it's a property. I make it as 50 pixels, suppose. Padding right shows up. I make it as 100 pixels. And then padding bottom shows up. I make this as 200 pixels, for example. So now you're going to see it's going to look very funny. Over here like this. You can see this. So the left padding is 10 pixels. The top padding is 50 pixels. The right padding is 100 pixels. And the bottom padding is 200. You can see every paragraph has it like this on the website. I hope this is clear. Over here. Is this visible to you all? Like, can you see the difference in padding? You see the difference in padding, right? Perfect. So there's a shorthand. So instead of people writing padding left, top, right, bottom all the time, that'd be very clunky. So what they did is they made a shortcut. So they made it as padding, just padding, okay? And you click on this. See, you can see the explanation given here. Shorthand padding to set values for the thickness of the padding area. You can see. And I'll show you the shorthand on this thing. Shorthand is top, right, bottom, left. So basically clockwise. If you can visualize it as a clock. So top is 12 o'clock, right is 3 o'clock, bottom is 6 o'clock, and left is 9 o'clock. So it's 12, 3, 6, 9. So top, right, bottom, left. So if I write padding 80 pixels, 40 pixels, 20 pixels, and 10 pixels, it's the same thing as writing padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left. So if you just take this, I copy it here, I'll paste it. I look at this box model, you can see left is 10. I mean, top is 80, right is 40, bottom is 20, and left is 10. So this is the padding shorthand. Top, right, bottom, left. I hope this is clear. And finally, we're going to be talking about margin. Margins, yeah. Margins also follow the same shorthand, so it's easy to remember. It's top, right, bottom, left. Same thing for margins as well. I'll go back. Instead of making it padding, I make it margin. Right, so you can see margin, top 80, right 40, bottom 20, left 10. I hope this is clear. It's the same, exact same thing as padding. Only difference is margin is outside of the box and padding is inside. You can see padding now is 0, and this is the margin for the paragraph. And if I want padding and margin, I can just I'll show you that they both have the same. So this is what it looks like. This is the padding, and then around it, this is the margin. So they're both looking like the same. You can see each of them have padding and margin like this. So that's what we do. Usually, we use them all same. So that's why we usually keep it as this. Just once, we write it once. So now what this means is all 4 sides have the same. So now you can look at this, all 4 sides of the same padding, all 4 sides of the same margin. I hope this is clear. I'll make this 50 to make it easier to see. So this is the margin, 50 on all sides. And then this is the padding, 10, sorry, on all sides. 10 and then 50. So you can notice one thing is that suppose we want to center our text. Like you've seen websites and they usually center their text. So what we can do is we can write like this, auto. So what this does is this calculates for us what we want. One more thing. Give it a max width of 100 pixels. Sorry, 100 is too low. I'll make it 200. Or, you know what, 300, sorry. Yeah, so you can see these 4 paragraphs. So now look at them. They look very beautiful, don't they? Because they're in the center. So what I did was, if I just remove this for a second, you'll see that they just go to the sides. So now what I'm doing is, I'm giving them a margin with 50 and auto. What does that mean? Basically, 50 pixels means that top and bottom, it's going to be 50. You can see. If I inspect, I click on this one. Margin, top and bottom, you can see it's 50, right? And on the left and right, it's auto, it's automatic. So it's basically centering it for me. So that's how you center any elements. If you want to center this, you do it like this, margin 50, and then like this, auto. This is how I'm centering my paragraph. So once you understand the syntax, it's going to be very easy for you. Same thing's happening here. Margin 50 and then auto. So now if I want to center this H1 as well, actually, so basically you need to learn. You'd think that it's just margin 50 pixels and auto, right? 50 pixels and auto, but that's not going to work. You can see it's not working. What we need to use for the H1 is just text align. Remember I showed you in the starting of the class, text align? That's what we're going to be using for the H1. I hope this is clear. So basically, this is the only way you can learn web development, is that you try and fail multiple times. Like if I search how to center an H1, you can see that there's many options. And I go to this website, it's called Stack Overflow. I use it a lot. And you can see over here, use text align : center. The H1 is a block level element with a width of 100%. That's why margin 0 auto wasn't work in this instant, as you can see. So lots of people have doubts, like when they're starting out. Even I have doubts now, and that's how I solve them. Is that I go online and I Google them like this. So we've covered all 4. Is this all clear by now? Is it clear? And don't be afraid to ask doubts. Okay, always ask doubts. Always Google the answer, because that's how you're gonna learn. We can cover one last thing, I think, before the class, because this is only a small 10-minute part. So basically, this is very important. It's called media queries, and it can be used to check what the user is using. So this is how media queries look. We write @ and then minimum width, and then we write the media query syntax. So I'll just show it to you right now, very quickly. Like very quickly, as in I'll show it to you and I'll help you understand. So I go here. So look at this. I write @ media, and then I write minimum width 1000 pixels. So I go back to my website. Wow, you can see that the text, like the background color, has completely changed. It's green. So why is that? So basically, this code over here, it's changing it to be green. You can see body. Body is everything in the website. Remember, I told you that everything we write in the website is in the body. So I can just change the background to be green like this. And the funny thing is that it only happens when the minimum width is over 1000. So if I change this width to be 999, you can see it's white. It's not working. If it's small like this, it's not working. It's not green. But once it crosses 1000, you can see it turns green over here. I'll share this code in the group, in the chat. I hope you've seen this. This is very important. And one more thing we can do is we can write multiple of them together. Like this one. What did I write? I wrote @ media, and then I wrote minimum width is 1000 pixels, minimum height is 1000 pixels with a comma. You can see these are in brackets and they're comma separated like this. And then I started the opening and closing tag. So I'll go back to here. And right now it's turning blue. I made it blue. But if I reduce this like this, you can see that this is the width, 647, and this is the height, 513. So it's not blue. But if I make the height more than 1000, you can see now it turns blue because the height's more than 1000. And instead of that, if I make the width more than 1000, then it's blue again. So it's basically separate queries, like either one of them, then it becomes blue. You can see over here. I hope this is clear. Please, if you have any doubts, please raise your hand. I'll share this with you. I'll just show it to you once more what's happening. So if both of these are under 1000, that's when we know that this is working. You can see. But the second one of them goes above 1000, you see it turns blue. And on the right-hand side, the CSS, we can see that background color is blue because the media query is being used right now. But if I turn it, then it's gone. Same way for width. Once width is over 1000, the height's less than 1000, but since the width's over 1000, this is working because we have a comma. Understood? I hope this is understood. So if I put minimum width and min height as 900, will it work if it is 900? That's a good question. Let's see. So if I turn it to 900 and I turn it to 900, let's go and check once. So basically I'll go to 899. And over here also I'll go 899. You can change it here, 899. You just click on responsive if you want to see. And you can mimic like iPhone as well. Like iPhone XR, it looks like this. iPad Air, it looks like this. Because these are saved. Anyway, so I go to 899. And once I turn this 900, you can see it becomes blue. So this is inclusive. So the second it's 900, it's going to work. Minimum. So 900 is going to be included. You can see it's turning blue. But at 899, it's not working. And there's lots of properties like this. There's also one called max height. All right, max height 900 pixels. So right now it's not blue, but if it's under 900, then it's blue. You can see over here. And if you want to search media queries, just search media queries. You can see online. You can learn them. And I told you about the website before. Media queries, just type MDN over here. And you can see all of these types that they use. They use height, hover, width, update, scripting, resolution. They use all kinds of these, and they make very nice websites using them. I'll just share this once with you. So basically, if you're ever interested, you can just go online and learn it yourself, because that's how you're supposed to do it. You learn like this. You just Google if you're ever confused, if you ever want to learn something. So that was it, basically. That's all I wanted to show today. And now we're going to have a holiday for like 3 or 4 days. So I'll send you some notes so you can revise. And then our next class is on 29th. So we're going to be doing a bit more of CSS. And if you have any questions, you can just ask them now. So no one has any questions? Okay, so the class is officially over. Thank you for joining. Bye.